It's new series time, Mike.
It is. We're going through the top 1,000 of Board Game Geek, and from each 100, we're choosing only 10 games.
That's right, we're wanting to start a kind of new series, an ongoing one that we could do here for a while. So what we're gonna be doing is going through 100 games at a time, and we're gonna be picking our 10 favorite games from that 100. So this first one, of course, we're gonna start at 1,000, because after 1,000, it was starting to get harder and harder to find games that we've played enough of.
Absolutely, but for the top 1,000 of Board Game Geek, we're well versed in that area.
We played 10 from each, and so we're gonna pick our 10 favorite games in this video from between 1,000 and 901.
On Board Game Geek.
Our number 10 from this particular 100 is going to be Icecool, or High School. It's Icecool. It's hard to say, kind of. But this is a game where you are these penguins, and this is a dexterity flicking game where you are going to be making this big old ice high school, which is actually, the whole box makes up this whole thing. It's a game that uses the box, which I always love in games. And it's gonna connect in all these different ways, and it's gonna make this big old school, and you're gonna be flicking these like bottom heavy penguins, these kind of round bottom penguins that are really bottom heavy, so they kind of go like that. And you flick them, and you're basically trying to go through these doors to collect fish and trying to not run into the hall monitor. There's someone who's the hall monitor going around flicking, trying to run into other penguins, going like, get back to class, get back to class. And you're just going around flicking, and it's just really, really cool because these penguins are all the weights on the bottom and they're round. You can kind of do these like flicks, and you can kind of spin them and have them like spin through doors, and you can end up doing these like really cool, fun like trick shots essentially, where you can like be jumping over walls and stuff like that. It's really, really fun. Ultimately, it's a fun little family kind of kid weight game, but it's a really good time. I really like Icecool. I think it's an absolute blast. You can do such cool stuff. It's just silly fun, and it's just such a great gimmick that works so, so well. Icecool's our number 10. I freaking love it.
So a game we love from the 1,00901 is Flick 'em Up. This is a game that we got very early on in our kind of, when we started really collecting games in the hobby. This is a dexterity game where you have a Wild West town that you're gonna set up in around your whole kitchen table. And you're gonna populate this town with cactuses and hay bales and again, the bank and things like that. And you're gonna have your little discs which are gonna represent your cowboys or your robbers or whoever you are. And you are going to be flicking them around to simulate them like running through the town. Wherever they land, that's where they stop. Once you get to a spot, you might be able to do an action or something or shoot at somebody else. We have a smaller disc, which is your little bullet. You're gonna flick that bullet and hope to knock over your opponent. They get knocked over, they got shot, they're wounded now. It's just so fun to set up. Huge toy factor here. So fun. If you go through the little doors of a location, you're now in that location, can make use of its action and things like that. There's dynamite that can get thrown around. You can hop on a horse and go faster. There's so much fun stuff. It's just hilarious, and you'll pull off some great shots, kind of like Crokinole, then you pull off some horrible shots, you don't know what happened. It was a great setting. I've heard a lot of good things about the Dead of Winter edition, which makes it a cooperative game. Flick 'em Up is really fun, and that's our number 9.
Number 8 is the 4th game in this series, I guess. This is Dinosaur World. So there's Dinosaur Island, there's Dinosaur Island, there's the Dinosaur Island Rarenrite, and then Dinosaur World. Dinosaur World is the biggest version of all these, and kind of takes like kind of a lot of the really good parts of Dinosaur Island and then adds parts that, in our opinion, Dinosaur Island was missing. So this is a game where you're building out kind of like a Jurassic Park style theme park with dinosaurs in it. It's got really cool Quantum Moria art, and you are getting different kinds of DNA because different dinosaurs will take different DNA. You're putting that DNA in cold storage, and then you're using that to build these dinosaurs. But the thing about Dinosaur Island that we always felt was kind of missing is the game is all about that. But the park part of it, where you're like putting your dinosaurs, it's just kind of there. And we're like, that's so weird, because wouldn't you think that like you would want to be going through your park? Well, in Dinosaur World, you now get to go through your park, because the whole second half of the game, essentially the whole second half of the round, is you taking your Jeep through the various parks, and you're driving it around, and you're going to see these different shops, these different attractions, these different rides, and of course, these different big old dinosaurs. And certain dinosaurs are bigger and more spectacular, but are much more dangerous. Some are kind of more docile, but aren't nearly as cool, and people aren't really as interested in them. And you're essentially trying to get excitement. It's really, really fun. It's a very big game, both physically and just a lot of stuff going on. And then as you visit these different places, their excitement levels go down. You're like, we've seen this Triceratops, who cares? Give me something new to look at. As you're constantly having to build out your park and take different routes to essentially keep your park exciting. It's really, really fun. My only knock against Dinosaur World is it is gargantuan, like we said. Dinosaur Island was already a big game. Dinosaur World is even bigger. These hex tiles are like this big. They're humongous. And Dinosaur Island kind of has a lot going on, and we were kind of hoping with Dinosaur World that they would essentially streamline it a little bit, and they really didn't. They kind of kept it just as big. It's still very, very fun, and honestly, between Dinosaur Island and Dinosaur World, we'll definitely play Dinosaur World because kind of all the best parts of Dinosaur Island are there, and then it adds this whole other park tour part that's really, really fun. It's a really great game. I really like it a lot. We don't play it too often because it's just so darn big, but I do really like it. Dinosaur World is awesome.
Number 7 is Nations, the dice game. I originally came into this game playing Tabletopia during the pandemic, and now we have it physically. This is a dice rolling version of Nations, which is a much, much larger civilization themed game. This brings everything down and kind of abstracts it all, where you're rolling out dice that are gonna give you money and swords which represent your strength, or books as your knowledge, and kind of all of these like civilization themings and that get peppered in on top of everything. But it's a really fast filler plus game. And I love that. I can get the kind of feelings of building some of the wonders of the world and having these great leaders, all that stuff that you have in bigger games like Nations or Through the Ages, but it just boils it down to a really kind of quick and simple, roll out some dice based on the faces you roll, what kind of actions you choose to do, and then you kind of move on. So I love how snappy it is, and it's one that we've actually quite enjoyed. That's Nations, the dice game.
Number 6 is a game all about combos and witches, and this is Witchstone by Reiner, Knizia, the king of theme. This is a game where you are going to be playing out these Mike calls them hexomino, which is essentially 2 hexes attached like a domino, hexomino action tiles. And in your cauldron where you're placing this action tile, you're essentially trying to make big groups of the same action. So if it's like the witch movement action, if you put it in a group of witch movement actions and there's 6 of them in there, you get to do that action 6 times, which is crazy. And so you're moving your witch all around doing all this crazy stuff. And there's all these different actions, like a wand action, which allows you to get to move up this wand track. The witch movement, you're moving around, you get these extra cards. You're doing a whole bunch of different stuff. And this game is all about combos, which we love about it, because when you're moving up, say, this wand track, you get to move up and you're activating things as you go by. And this activation might be 2 witch movements. Now you get to move these 2 witch movements. Oh, cool. Now I get to do this. Now I get to go over here and do this. Now I can go over here and move around this little rondelle. Oh, and that actually gives me this bonus over here. And you just make these big bonkers combos. It's so much fun. I really, really like Witchstone. And shout out to Aldi from Board Game Geek, the owner of Board Game Geek, because he really likes Witchstone. He told us, he's like, Murphs, you are gonna love this game. You need to play Witchstone. And then we did, and it was great. It's really, really fun. And especially that kind of action selection system where you're choosing where to put this hexomino tile in your cauldron, but you're starting to run out of room and you want to make these big groups of actions, but it's really hard to kind of manage that. And sometimes you have this big group and you accidentally cut it off with something else. You're like, oh no, now I can never reach those like 5 different actions right there. Darn, okay, so you have to kind of build things out in a really interesting way. Witchstone is an absolute blast. If you like games where you're scoring a lot and getting a whole bunch of combos on combos on combos, you gotta check out Witchstone.
Number 5 is Herbaceous. This is a game that I play with my wife all the time. It's a wonderful kind of push your luck game where you are trying to pot a bunch of herbs, wonderful herbs in your garden. And on your turn, if you're not potting plants, you are going to, or rather, if you're not potting plants first, you'll jump right to the point where you're gonna draw 2 cards, one at a time. When you flip over one card, you might have sage or rosemary, whatever it might be. And you're going to choose to put that in the public garden, which everyone can use, or your private garden, which only you can use. Whatever you chose first, say I chose private garden, that second card has to go to the opposite location. There will always be one card to each, and it's kind of like a, do you take what you see first and hope to get something better on the second one, but it's kind of random? Do you put that first thing into the public garden so you just hopefully get something better for yourself? There's a lot of fun choices to make. And then with each potted plant, you have 4 of them. There's gonna be one that takes like only one type of herb, as many of those as you can get. Another one you want all different herbs and so on. You can only pot each plant, your herbs, your pot one time. So deciding when to pull the trigger, when to finally plant all that stuff, you can choose things from your private garden and the community garden. But if I'm like, I'm gonna wait one more turn, draw over some cards, by the time it gets back around to me, maybe someone wiped out the community garden and took all the sage. I'm like, no, I needed your tarragon. And you get kind of stuck. So I love that kind of simple mechanisms of drawing out those cards. A little bit of push your luck there of like, I'm gonna wait for a better card for myself, and the best thing possible goes out in the public garden. You're like, great. And then choosing when to pot those plants is really, really fun, beautiful art. My wife and I love playing it. That's Herbaceous.
Number 4 is a game that I fundamentally do not understand how it works, and that is Black Sonata. Black Sonata is a really cool solo-only game that I took with me when I went to England last year, and I played it on the plane, and then I would play it in a cafe waiting for a friend, and I ended up playing it like 6 times in a row because it was that darn good. It was really cool. Black Sonata is a game where you are searching for Shakespeare's mysterious dark woman. So what, basically all the sonnets in the sonata was written about this mysterious woman. And so you are now trying to find this dark, mysterious, who is this person? Who is this person? And you are going around London trying to find them. And it essentially could be all of these different people, and you are trying to deduce who it's going to be. It's a deduction game. And so you're gonna have someone face down who you don't know who that person is. And then as you're going around, there's a hidden movement mechanism where the mysterious woman is moving around London, and you are trying to chase her down and trying to essentially end up in the same place as her. Because if you end up in the same place as her, you then can confront her and be like, who are you? Like that. She's like, ah, you know, and then you can eventually find out information about them, because each of these women have information about them. They can be they can also be a writer, they can be some kind of royalty, they can be married, they can have kids, they can have some kind of tie to Shakespeare, all this different information. And so then as you kind of like, hey, who are you? You find out some information about this mysterious woman. So you're like, oh, while she was running away, I saw a ring on her hand. That means she's married. Okay, and then because she's married, that will then weed out some other people. Okay, so it can't be this person because this person's not married. And you are just deducing the whole thing, but it's got this really cool hidden movement mechanism that I just fundamentally don't understand how it works, because there's essentially a sequence of cards that she's going through, and that's how she's moving, and it's just wild. These kinds of games like Black Sonata or Turing Machine, these kind of pure deduction games, I just fundamentally don't understand how someone thinks of how to make something like this work, but it is really, really cool. I liked Black Sonata a lot. It was so much fun. It's an absolute blast. You just play it over and over and over and over again. I absolutely love it. It's wonderful.
Number 3, I was honestly shocked to see here. This is Tidal Blade's Heroes of the Reef. This is a big old kind of worker placement game set in a water world with animals, kind of fish folks doing like American Gladiator style like stunt challenges and stuff, and putting on these shows for people. You're an aspiring Tidal Blade to kind of like represent these heroes of the old that you kind of honor now. And there's also some monsters that are starting to invade, so it's kind of looking like those heroes from the old might need some help from the young up and coming champions, as it were. This game is just really fun. It's an amazing production. It's just absolutely over the top with the wonderful bits, beautiful art, maybe the best art ever in a game. It's such an incredible world, crazy dice that you're rolling and stuff like that. It's just amazing and wonderful and splashy, literally. In the game, you're in water. And it's really fun to play. So as you go around different locations, you can attempt challenges, which will increase your stats in these 4 areas, which are gonna help you bring more dice to a challenge and get kind of better rewards from your stunt cards and things like that. And there's just a lot of fun stuff you can do while you complete these challenges, go fight monsters and more. That is Tidal Blades. It's one that we really enjoyed. It's kind of an early, big Kickstarter that we backed, and we've been enjoying it ever since we got it.
Number 2 is a game that is all about bumping tracks, and that is Khôra, Rise of an Empire. Khôra is about the Greek Empire, and you are kind of rising up and doing a lot of Greek civilization stuff. So you got like taxes, and you got like population, you got like conquests and all that kind of stuff, Greek stuff. And so this is a game where you are rolling out these dice, and these dice are going to dictate what actions you can essentially do. And there are like, I think 6 or 7 different actions depending on what you roll. And those are going to be moving up different tracks. You can like go out and essentially like put out your markers on these like regions. These are regions that you have like gone fought and conquered. It's all very, very abstract. There's no like dice rolling. You're not actually fighting anybody. It's just you're out, put a token down. Yay, we have this place now. But then there's all these different tracks on the board. Again, like the tax track, the population track. To do certain things, you have to have a certain amount of population. These things will make your population go down. You're getting taxes from your people, so you're getting money, so you can go up these own tracks on your own board. It's all about bumping tracks. But one of the cool parts and one of the kind of crux of this game is these, I think it's the 5th action, it's the politics action. And that means you can play these politics cards. And these politics cards really change up the game. If you didn't have these, the game would kind of end up being kind of samey after a few plays. But these really change stuff because these can be like instant benefits, can give you like a whole bunch of money, give you a whole bunch of symbols that you might need for certain things. Or they can give you ongoing abilities. So now every time you do this action, it costs 1 less. Now every time you do this action or this thing, you get some kind of bonus. Or they can be endgame scoring cards. And they can really make you different from other people, and they can really make you focus on stuff as opposed to what other people are doing. You also have an asymmetric faction everyone has that makes you a little bit different, makes you want to focus on certain things depending on what part of Greece you're from, like Athens or Sparta or something like that. It's really, really fun. It's just a good game. Again, if you like kind of those classic Euro games and you like bumping tracks, Khôra is definitely one to check out. We really, really like it.
So number 1, I'll say it is way too low. This is World's Fair 1893. This game's amazing. This is an area control game, a light area control game, set at the World's Fair in 1893. That's why they call it that, I guess. This is a great game where you're gonna be putting out kind of supporters, these cubes into the 5 kind of areas that the fair had. It's all about electricity and arts and culture and farming and agriculture, everything that was kind of going on and hip and new at the time is stuff that you can do at the fair. Now, what's really fun is you want to have the most representation in each of the 5 areas to get these kind of medals, which will allow you to do some set collection stuff for the end game and kind of the scores. But there's also these action cards, which are different people that were at the World's Fair, influential people and inventors and famous folk and stuff like that. They're going to give you special actions. So if you have any of those cards stored away, when it comes to your turn, you have to use all those cards and allow you to take a supporter and move it to a new location, add an extra supporter to a location, things like that, to really kind of shift around where you're showing your influence and where you're kind of investing versus what you're sort of letting go, and all that jazz. This game is just, for us, we're not super conflict-driven gamers. We don't love in-your-face types of games. And so World's Fair 1893 puts it into a setting that's not about battle or anything like that. And so that mixed with the kind of lightness of the mechanisms and the kind of ease of access makes it really fun to kind of get into and enjoy an area control game. Like, this is the area control game built for us. If you don't want super conflict heavy games, come play World's Fair 1893. I absolutely love the theme. I love the look of the board so much. It's all a big Ferris wheel because the Ferris wheel was like a brand new invention that blew people's minds back then. It's the past, you get it. It's just one that we think is really, really fun. That's World's Fair 1893. Cannot speak highly enough about it. There's a new edition that came out recently that's extra cool, and I highly recommend you get it. That's World's Fair 1893. So those are 10 games that we really enjoy from that section of Board Game Geek. I'll be honest, Nick, all
That's
games rated way too low.
Yeah, way too low.
Way too low.
Way too low, indeed. Let us know down in the comments below from 1,000 to 901, what were your 10 favorite games from that 100? And then very soon here, we'll be doing the next 100, so 9 to 801, and we'll go all the way up through the top 100 games of all time.
Absolutely.
Which will be a very contentious list. People will be very upset with what we choose,
yeah, they're going to hate it, but that's okay.
Great.
We're going to love those games.
Yeah, it's going to be great, yeah.
That's all
exactly.
that matters. We'll see you all in the next one of this series. Thanks so much. Give your picks in the comments, and I am Mike.
I'm Nick.
We have the Brothers Murph, and we'll catch you all in the next top 10.
Bye, everybody.